Morning, everybody. 8:07 a.m. Welcome to my channel. Market's nuts. Okay. The memory stocks, semis, be getting hit. Okay. The QQQ has hit its expected move to the downside. It's actually passed it. The ES is expected move to the downside is 742.95. I believe it might have hit it pre-market. Okay. Now, we just took out a ton of demand zones. A ton. Okay. And we fell pretty fast. Okay. We have to remember we're in July, starting with the earnings season. SPY didn't even really move down that much yesterday. It finally has. Okay. That's what's going on. All right. My trading week has continued to be frustrating. I have 6 break-even trades this week. And I was looking at my stats this week. Only one yesterday, unfortunately, that I got hit at break even. It would have been successful. The 5 other ones would have been losses. So I can't really complain of when I use my discretion to go to break even. I'm pretty much could be having a very red week when I'm flat. So it's very frustrating too to get in all those break evens and to have the trade go my way multiple times. I think only one time I got any trade and it didn't go my way initially. So I'm reading the market right. It's going to turn. It's just the way it is. All right. Now today's OPEX, monthly expiration. Okay. Could have some pinning later on, some early volatility. Large gaps are not easy to trade. All right. Let's get into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steve Gonzalez. Use market profile and bond profile to find structure in the markets along supply and demand. Gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That's where I cut my game plans. That's my edge. Now, when the market opens up, I use my market internals to see where money flows is going off the open. Along with anchor view up, it's a little ICT thrown in there. All right, my weekly expected move indicator I give for free for Thinkorswim on my Discord, as well as gamma flip points that I give for free away for free on my Discord. Okay, very, very pivotal levels. Very, very pivotal. Okay. Now, hopefully you join me every morning. Subscribe, set that alert. Give you the market news, the economic calendar, the technical analysis, and always give you the long and short trade scenarios in the ES and the NASDAQ futures later on in the stream. If you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. Now, move right into futures watch list here. Okay, the VIX is up 9.21% at 18 VIX. Crude is up 2.29%, over $80 a barrel. Again, 30-year bonds. People are buying bonds, just 10 years lower. Gold, flat. Dollar, flat. Dow's down over 0.5%. Russell down over 0.71. 10-year yield is down 0.72. ES down 0.88. Silver down over 1%. Bitcoin down 1.65%. Nasdaq's down 1.84%. Ethereum down 2.16%. Moving on to the Mag 7 Plus. Okay. Eli Lilly is your lone leader. Okay. Let's go to let's see, 2%ers. Broadcom down 2%. Caterpillar down 2%. Nvidia down over 2%. Micron down 2.74%. Coinbase down 3.28%. AMD down 3.72%. Intel down almost 4%. And Netflix disappointed. Earnings down 11%. Top sectors. Exxon getting love. Walmart obviously getting love. Johnson & Johnson up 1%. These are all safety plays. Okay. Who's down here? GE Vernova down 1.5%. Salesforce down over 1.5%. Oracle almost down 2%. Palantir down 2.5%. Qualcomm down 2.75%. Okay. Moving on to sectors. Energy is your leader today, up 1.26%, followed by staples, safety, utility, safety, and real estate's flat. Now, laggard is your discretionary. Amazon, Home Depot, Tesla down 0.5%. Communications at your Meta, your Google down 0.75. Technology is down over 2%. That's a big, big weight in our S&P 500. Your Apple, your Microsoft, your Nvidia. Okay. Semiconductors down 3.37. They continue to get outflows. Okay. Moving on, economic calendar today. Economic calendar. Today, we have Michigan consumer sentiment at 10 a.m. Okay, that's what we have today. All right, no really specific earnings today. We don't need to go over that story. U.S. futures slide with AI worries in focus. Okay, so it says stock fell for a second day as investors rotated out of tech shares, deepening a sell-off in chip makers after the sector's blistering rally earlier this year. Equity index futures pointing to further losses. All right, Trump today. Let's see. Don't really see anything today. More news. Netflix earnings disappoints. PayPal board sees Stripe Advent over offer as inadequate. SpaceX IPO earns millions for U.S. Small Business Administration. Taco Bell to stop using lettuce identified with cyclosporiasis outbreak. Jeez. Luckily, I don't eat Taco Bell. Looks like China had a bad day. All right, we're gonna move on. Moving on here. We don't need to talk about breath because it's kind of a big gap down right now, so that's gonna change things. All right. Yesterday, the SPY actually didn't even finish that bad because I had it literally closed. SPY closed above 750, which is not even that bad of a day, but obviously it sold off in the overnight session. Okay, so we're going to look at the market internals from yesterday. Let's recap those. Now, even yesterday, okay, tech was down pretty bad at one point, but never got super, super bad. But the top three sectors out of four were red. Okay. But you had industrials, healthcare, staples, energy all get money flows. All right. You can see equal weight never was weak yesterday. Even internally, we never really got that weak. We did fall from ultimate balance, which remember I said ultimate balance, the farther away you go from it, big moves happen. That is definitely very true. So yesterday, I did not expect a big outsized move. I just didn't see it. It's okay. This morning, different story. We moved away from ultimate balance. Okay. Now, we're going to look at the daily charts. Alrighty. Just want you to notice something here, because if you look at a small time frame on the SPY, or it could make you feel like, oh my God, this is so bad. Look at the SPY daily chart. You kept in this balance area. You even closed. Like, this is nothing about this is bearish. Okay. You closed above the 90 MA daily. You're still above the 20 and the 50. However, right now we're at 744. We're right at the 20-day and the 50-day. 742, let's call it 743, is the weekly expected move to the downside. Now, just to put in perspective, okay, 739 is last week's lows. 739 is last week's lows. We are $5 above that right now. So, in the daily chart, this is not very bearish. This is not very bearish. Okay, keep that in mind. We're not even below last week's lows. We're not even at the weekly expected move to the downside. Let's look at the futures now. Okay, we tried yesterday again. Now, when we came in here in futures, I got short, right? This was yesterday's session. I was short 76.10. My stop was like 76.18. Never even came close. But it was so erratic. My trade didn't prove fruitful till like 15 minutes after I got out of it. Could I have re-entered? Sure. And I knew if that trade was going to work, it could really push lower. And that's what happened. Okay. However, look where we are. Okay, so if we are going to, you see these three lows here, right? Around the 74.80s. We didn't even hit that yet. We are below the 50, the 20 in futures. This is last week's lows. Do we hit it? I don't know. I don't know. We're getting some buying excess here. Okay. July is typically not very bearish. All right. And we have earnings coming. Now, I'm just saying be a little cautious here. All right. That's all I'm saying. We already came a long way down. Now, the Qs. Remember, I kept talking about this daily demand. Okay. This daily demand zone. Every time we came in here, we get bought. Now, look at what we did yesterday. Hit the expected move to the downside, and we bounced. There's last week's lows. We still didn't hit last week's lows. However, right now we're at 693.30s. Look where we're at. The bottom of this demand zone. So if this is going to get bought, it's here. Okay. So in the Qs, which makes sense, you are below last week's lows. But the SPY, because there's money rotating into other sectors, is weak. Look at the futures here. Okay. Now, I said this is a very ugly daily demand right here. Boom. In futures. Notice if you look across to this wick is where futures bottomed. Right there. This is last month's lows. So sometimes the levels aren't perfect. This might be where shorts took profit now and we can push up today. And again, I don't know. Big gaps are hard to trade. Big gaps are hard to trade. Real quick. Breath. Check out the breath yesterday. It improved. You see what I'm saying? The S&P 500 breath improved yesterday to 68% over the 50-day moving average. Equal weight, okay? Equal weight was strong yesterday. It's just the memory and semis were getting destroyed. Okay? Keep that in mind. This market overall in the S&P 500 was not that weak. Now again, pre-market, we fell. Okay? I understand that. But you got to look at the perspective. Okay? Hourly charts. You know, when I was trading earlier on, this would make me go, oh my God, I missed a move. Man, I wish I would have been short. It's pretty much an amateur mindset in trading, okay? I had that mindset, oh man, well, I would have should have been short. I should have been in a put. I should have shorted. It doesn't matter. Okay, markets move and then you give you opportunities. If you know how to trade, there's always opportunities. Okay, so what I see, right, is yesterday we closed all the way up here. I'm sorry, up here. That's how we closed. Okay, now look at the way we moved down. Boom, just fell. That's not very healthy. Okay, now that is very poor structure. So what I'm looking at now, then there was a bullish fair value gap from the past. It did clean it up. Okay, but never got a closure through it. I'm just left that on my, I usually take these off now, but I left that here. Okay, you can see there's still demand below. And right here is a pretty bullish little pattern. Looks like an inverse head and shoulders, right? You know, like I said, July is not very typically bullish, and typically bearish, okay? Not super bullish, but it's typically not bearish. An earnings season awaits. Okay, think about this. It's OPEX, monthly expiration. I don't know how many people want to be short into the weekend when earnings are kicking in. Okay? So this could just break this level around 75.23s and just take off like a rocket because there's nothing holding it back. Now you do have this little bearish value gap here around 75.40s. And this could get crazy today and just rip. And you'd be like, okay. Now these semis have like a mini crash going on. The memory and semis. They do. They're on sale. Okay. Let's look at NASDAQ. Remember, NASDAQ's relatively weaker. Now, NASDAQ, okay, look at this move. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, same thing. This level is very important. 28821s. Very, very important. You do have an excess low here right in this demand zone. Now, there is a channel that the market has been respecting. Okay, look at this here. 1, 2, 3. Maybe you call that 4, 5. And you can see the downtrend line that they couldn't break yesterday, right? This doesn't mean you all out long here, but this is what the market's been doing. Okay, in demand, monthly lows below. Okay, the prior monthly lows. Maybe we take out the low and bounce. I don't know. All I'm saying is this move. Okay, when you're past the expected move to the downside and memory stocks are on sale and earnings are coming. Okay, like I said, I'll trade what I see. I'm just giving the story. Okay, giving the story. Our market's not even moving down because of Middle East. It's moving down because of the semis and the memory stocks finally selling. Okay, that's why we're selling. That's why SPY yesterday really didn't look too bad. Moving on, market profile, volume profile. Now, typically, these large gaps are not easy to trade. They're just not. They're just not. Okay. So here's my market profile and volume profile. Okay. So let's right off the bat, like I said, large gaps are never fun. Okay. There's a lot of digestion. A lot of times the best trade is very early. Okay. Is very early. All right. So let's get right into the ES long and short trade scenarios. Let's get right into it. Okay. And what we're going to see here is we'll mark off some levels. First thing you want to do is mark off gap fill, 75.48. That is your gap fill. And it lines up with this bearish for value gap, okay? Next thing is the 50% retracement of the overnight 75.33s. You mark that off. All right. Now, another thing I'm going to notice, well, I look at is the inventory, overnight inventory. This right here is where we opened. That's the only longs to all this short. We're about 90% net short in the overnight session. And you have an excess low, okay, into a demand. You put in, well, almost went into this demand, okay? Another level you're going to want to look at is the 75, let's call it 15s, is the overnight VPOC. This is going to be representative of shorts, okay? So any kind of move you see that holds 75 to 15 is a long. Now, what I typically see a lot of times on big gaps like this is this overnight VPOC becomes very powerful. And a lot of times when the day, like when we open up and the market opens, and the VPOC for the today early on becomes the overnight VPOC, moves that move away from that are very explosive. So I'm going to keep my eye on that. Okay. Now let's break out the session. Okay. Let's break out the session. Now, you know the story. So what am I going to look at first? A long. I'm not going to panic and think, oh my God, I just want to short this market. That's not how you think about it. Okay. I already said this pattern's bullish. We have an excess low. Okay. What do I want to see? Now, if we do come down here and we take out the overnight lows, 74.91s, let's just say we go this and we go into demand, boom, you get a little bit V bottom, higher low, back into the overnight range. You long that, you target the 75.15s, and then try to ride that puppy, okay, up to 75.33 and try to fill the gap at 75.48. Okay, that's one. That's a sweep of the overnight lows. Now, like I said, what the other level I'm really going to pay attention to is that overnight VPOC 75.15. If the market goes like this and retests it, and I'm looking at internally and I'm like, this is not weak, you also go long, try to target the 75.48 gap fill. Okay, that's really the only longs I'm looking at. Shorts. I'm going to say, be honest with you, I'm not excited about shorting here. Just not. Okay? Just not excited about it. Okay, now, just to give you some thing too, like when you all out crash in the market, everything is red. There's not rotations. It's just red. Okay? So, again, a short, okay? I need to see quick buying and then see what we do inside this bearish value gap. That is from 75.39 to 75.46. Okay? Now, the gap fill is right above that. That's yesterday's lows. So you get failure in here, resistance here, boom, lower high, you short, target 75.15s, then overnight lows. Okay? Now, obviously the standard is, even if we came up, I'd like a quick push up into gap fill and a big rejection. Boom. Lower high. And let's say the market isn't that strong on this push up. That's where you also target the overnight lows. Okay. Now, down here, shorting in here, I'm not a fan of it. Okay. I'm really not a fan of it. I'm honestly right now probably leaning more long, but obviously I'll trade accordingly. Okay. Let's look at the NASDAQ now. Okay. NASDAQ, big gap down. Again, let's get into the long and short trade scenarios in NASDAQ. Okay. So, first thing we do is we look at those levels, right? What I just talked about. And the ES, right? Big gap down. Gap fills 290.79. Overnight 50% retracement is 288.87. Lines up with a bearish value gap. Okay. Your overnight VPOC, very important again on these large gap downs. 287.48. Okay. 287.48. And look, we're right at that major level. And remember, previous monthly lows is right below us. Okay. Now, let's break out the session. Now, also, we're 90% net short as well at the bottom. That generally, you get a correction. I'm not saying it's an all-out, oh my God, we're going to hit yesterday's highs. I'm just saying that when you're that short in the hole, right? Any kind of buying that goes through this overnight VPOC is going to panic sellers because they want to take profits, right? And you have to realize, if you look at the chart, you have a lower high, a lower high, a lower high, a lower high, and a lower high. Sellers are getting paid. They're just getting paid. Monthly lows right below us, right? Previous monthly lows. All right, let's get into scenarios now. Okay, so that overnight VPOC right there. All right, so same scenarios. If you sweep the overnight low, 28554, and immediately get bought, higher low, and internally, we are not weak. You're going to look to see if we can pass that overnight VPOC, okay, and see at least if you can go into this bearish for value gap and target the 50% retracement of the overnight, 28887s. If you take out this bearish for value gap, okay, that is very bullish. You go for gap fill, 290.79. Okay, remember, the memory stocks are on sale right now into earnings. Okay, it's monthly expirations, DOPEX. Same story here, okay, on that VPOC, overnight VPOC, right? So that overnight VPOC is that 287.50. Okay, so what do I want to see? If we take that out, right, maybe even come into this bearish for value gap and pull back to it, you go long, target the gap fill, 290.79. Okay, we're below last week's lows, the 289.10s. Okay, that's also a pivotal level, 289.10s. All right, any acceptance back into last week is pretty bullish. And shorts, like I said, like shorts on these large gap downs are not easy. They're not easy. Okay, so obviously here, okay, right in here, if you fire off, right, and go get caught in this bearish value gap, and you cannot take this out, immediate selling, and you get a lower high, go through this overnight VPOC, right? You're going to target the overnight lows, 28554. Do we fall farther, a lot farther? I don't know, but that's a decent short. It's a better short in the Nasdaq. Okay, it's a better short. Now, if you take, I'm going to be honest, if in the Nasdaq, if you go all the way to gap fill, can you short that? Sure, but if we're up there, we're probably back into last week's range. The shorts are done. Okay, so I'm going to leave that this is my only short. Okay, now, quick recap. ES has an inverse head and shoulders pattern, very bullish, holding a bullish for value gap, tipped its toe into a demand zone. It's OPEX. Earnings season is upon us. How much farther do we go? I don't know. Okay, but I am very cautious on shorts, probably leaning to the long side. Overnight VPOC, the 75.15s is what I'm looking at there. Nasdaq, relatively weaker in a demand zone. Okay, it did take this demand zone out, so it weakened it. It cleared it. I just want to get on there to know that there is demand there. Okay, and I'd say any acceptance into last week, 289.10, any acceptance is bullish. I think the shorts probably will be done. Okay, I think the easier trade today is probably going to be a long, but large gaps are never easy because everybody's got to figure and digest this big move that happened overnight, and it happened quick and swift. It did not lollygag down. So if we didn't lollygag down, right, and it was swift, you could swiftly take that back up. So keep that in mind. Okay, smash the like button if you enjoyed that analysis. That would mean a lot to me. Okay. As always, subscribe, set an alert, give you the market story, the market news every morning, technical analysis. I just gave you the long short trade scenarios and an ES and a Nasdaq futures. Now, if you want more in-depth coverage, okay, you're going to join my Discord. It's Confluent Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. Okay, I should be going live around 9:45 a.m. Please join me. Please join me. Okay. Now we have our plan. Okay. Big gaps. But what I've seen in these big gaps is those overnight VPOCs are very, very pivotal, especially when the day's VPOC, the developing VPOC, lines up with the overnight VPOC. And I'm seeing strength after a big gap down. There's explosions that happen and they're quick. Okay? So remember that I said that. I don't think a short is easy here. Okay? That doesn't mean it can't happen. It just means I find it the easier trade might be long, and there is no easy trades today. Let's just end it like that. Okay? Now, everybody, remember no trade is a trade. No trade is a trade. I wish everybody luck today. Hopefully have a great day, a great weekend. And if I don't see you in my Discord, I'll see everybody Monday morning. Take it easy.